Let's talk about Nick Chubb. Just at 3 yards a carry last night, so I don't think that's going to wow anybody. But the fact that he scored 2 touchdowns and fought for some really, really big yards, it put the exclamation point on his redemption story. What do you guys make of Nick Chubb and what he was able to do last night?
Well, I think it was great to see him back in the end zone. That game was a classic AFC North game. It was beautiful in the way that the fans were out there. It was snowing. It just looked like it was something off NFL films that you look back on and say, wow, I wish I was at that type of game. Nick Chubb, the yards per carry aren't going to wow you, but then again, when you're playing in a game like that, you want tough, money yards. You got to just stick it up in there and get it going and get the touchdowns. I think he really did a really great job of putting his helmet down, put his shoulder pads low and getting low. And more than anything, I always try to look back and see where I was a year before. Every time that you look back, you want to be doing better than you were the year before. And Nick Chubb, where he was a year ago, was probably in one of the darkest moments of his life. Congratulations to him for being able to come back and put a bow on that and put 2 touchdowns on the board.
Nick Chubb right now is, of course, not the player he was. And so there's a little sadness in that. But I do believe he is just young enough that he could eventually, and I believe it, and I conned myself into believing that Nick Chubb would pull off the Adrian Peterson and be great immediately. But every other running back that has come back from knee surgeries, it's taken them to the second year before they were back to the guy they were again. Now, some guys get too old, and that never happens. I believe Nick Chubb next year will be back to the back he was. But he shows you moments where he can drag guys for a couple of yards in big spots at the goal line, big spots on 4th down. Yeah, the yards per carry are awful. They're by far the worst of his career, not only in this game, but for the season. The offensive line hasn't, been great at run blocking, although I thought they were a little better yesterday. I thought the offensive line probably played its best game yesterday. So it's weird not to see amazing runs from Nick Chubb because he's just not there yet. But you're seeing part of the Nick Chubb specialness in his ability to grind and get the extra yard in tough sledding.
I don't know that Nick Chubb will ever be the Nick Chubb that we remember.
He might not. I think he will.
I think those days are probably over, actually. But it was great to see last night against the team that really sort of sidetracked his entire career, derailed his career with that knee injury last year, to come back and score 2 touchdowns again last night, and then in typical Nick Chubb fashion, leave the locker room without talking to anybody, without talking to the media. That's Nick. Score 2 touchdowns, play against the team that ended your season last year, and then get out before anyone can ask you about it. So it was a great moment for him. The Browns have a lot of hard decisions to make with Nick Chubb after the season in terms of a contract, what to offer, if to offer, and those are conversations we can have at another time. But for the moment, for yesterday, for last night, it was great to see.
Every once in a while, generational probably, a player comes along that you as a fan absolutely say he needs to play his entire career here. That's Nick Chubb. I can't even begin to think of seeing him in, God forbid, a Steelers uniform or a Jets. It makes me feel sick, actually, to think about it. He's that guy. I disagree with. I'm not going to say he is going to be the player he once was, but I am not nearly as close to saying that he'll never be that guy as you guys are because he's
Whoa, I just said I think he will.
No.
I don't think he will.
No,
be.
Jason said
he doesn't think. He said you guys, though.
I thought
No, I said he won't be this year, but I think he will be next year.
I do, too.
I think there's a reasonable chance.
Well, we saw him on a dry, fast track last week. He averaged 5 yards a carry. That's Nick Chubb. That's Nick Chubb. That's the guy that he's been for his entire career. I think you're right. It was too presumptuous to think that we might see that this year.
Yeah.
The injury he suffered was devastating. If anyone can do it, it's 24. My sincere hope is, because you said they're going to have to make a difficult decision at the end of this year. In a normal situation, you overpay him and you swallow it. You don't even think about it. But now, with the Deshaun Watson contract, that deal for Deshaun Watson becomes worse if they can't sign Nick Chubb because of the financial handcuffs on their wrists over Deshaun Watson. I hope that's not the case.
I don't think there's anybody. There's not going to be another team offering him that much money.
I read an article yesterday that talked about potential suitors for Nick Chubb. There were more teams listed than I thought.
Nobody's going to overpay him.
But they're not going to overpay him
next year.
I'm not saying you have to overpay him.
Yeah.
But the Browns are probably in the worst possible position to overpay somebody right now because they're overpaying somebody by $85 million next year.
Hey, you know, like my dad always say, hey, man, when the light bill due, we're going to find a way to pay the light bill. Something else got to get cut out.
If we're not eating.
I think the Browns absolutely need to address the position with a young player also, because Jerome Ford doesn't appear to be the next running back. But I would at the very least bring back Nick Chubb for another year and see what
he should retire as a Cleveland Brown.
He should.
I agree with that.
I hope that happens. And I hope it's later than sooner.